This is the Milton Historical Society Eyewitness to History, Oral History of Albert Lank. It's October 27th, 2015. Albert, it's so nice to have you with us today. Could you tell us a little bit about growing up in Milton, Delaware?
Well, I didn't really grow up in the town of Milton. I grew up in the rural area out on Route 1 now. And that's where I went to school there in the Broadkill School, which is located on the farm. And at the end of the sixth grades, I rode the bus into the town to school. And this was about 1934, something like that. And of course, attended 6 years here, graduated in 1940.
Okay.
Milton was a quiet town, sort of laid back at that time.
Right.
And it was very quaint and still is.
Tell me a little bit about your dad's profession and how your mom helped out.
My dad was a farmer. I think, of course, my grandfather bought the farm, and he moved there in about 1922, I think.
Where did he come from?
Well, he grew up in the area around Cool Spring and all that kind of those areas, and. He was a farmer, and he worked there as a general farmer, grew crops for dairy, and everybody had cows at that time.
Okay.
And of course, my mother had laying hens, chickens, and had excess eggs. And at Saturday night, we would load up in the car, my sister and I, and we'd come in town and take these eggs to the American stores. That's what it was called at that time, not Acme.
Okay.
And trade the eggs for staples.
Oh, interesting. A barter system.
That's about all that she really bought.
Uh-huh.
Cocoa, sugar, pepper, salt.
Everything else was raised on the farm?
Everything was meat. We used to kill cattle, eat the beef and pigs, and had our own chickens, and had very little trash because, you see, we did not...
Right.
Nothing to throw away.
Right.
Because she canned, and the cans were saved for the next year.
Okay.
So that made it very nice about that.
What would be your best memory of growing up on the farm outside of Milton?
Well, you had plenty of room to roam. You could, would do more or less as you pleased. Go here, go there, and this kind of thing.
Right. Very social?
There wasn't too much social life at that time because that was the time of entertainment was radio.
Okay.
And I think everybody did not have radio, I don't think. They'd go to somebody's house and listen to political speeches and that kind of thing.
Right. Sit around with friends and relatives.
And,
tell me a little bit about school. You said 6 years at the Milton School. Was that junior high and high school?
Yes, junior high, I guess, was 6, 7, 8.
Okay.
I mean, 7, 8, 9,
right.
Whatever. And at the ninth grade, you selected your course that you wanted to take. And I took the commercial course mainly because it was the easiest, I thought. More or less memory, and I had a terrific memory. And I could do that very easily without having to tax myself extra.
Homework was not as hard.
Math wasn't my favorite subject.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to tell me you did some bookkeeping on the farm.
Well, I've never used it really.
Oh, okay.
Maybe a little bookkeeping, but shorthand, no.
Oh, okay.
Maybe That's all right. I can remember.
Who was your favorite teacher?
My favorite teacher was the English teacher, Eileen Welch.
Okay.
She was a nice teacher, and she taught we had plays, and I remember we had a senior play, we called it, or a junior play, I don't know which class it was now, The Night Owl.
Oh, okay.
And I was one of the main characters in that, and my The other character was, well, the lady I married,
Oh my gosh.
Betty Stevenson.
All right.
And
A backstage romance? Were there, other than the plays and things associated with classroom, did you have any outside activities? Did you play any sports or?
of course, in the 10th and 11th grades, maybe, I joined I took agriculture.
Okay.
And the FF, they call it Future Farmers of America.
We still have that today, sure.
And I had that. And I also played basketball. I have a picture, it's in one of the Milton books
Uh-huh.
of the team.
Team.
That I played on. And I guess that's about all the extra activities
Okay.
I did in the school.
What about during the summer vacations? You worked on the farm, obviously, but
That's
what other
right.
things?
There would be things that children could do. For instance, now they plant corn as thick as they can get it. Those years they planted it every 3 or 4 feet apart, and if you had more than 2 grains in there, you had to get one of them up,
Oh,
or they wouldn't grow corn.
right.
So that was one of the things children could do, was go along there and pull the 3rd grain out if there was one there.
Oh my gosh. You couldn't get children to do that today.
And also, I started milking cows at 6 years old.
Oh, okay.
There was one cow that was very gentle and quiet and easy to milk, and we milked by hand,
Okay.
and I milked this cow for when I would milk. Of course, it was only about 12 or so cows that we
Oh,
milked.
all right. Okay. What about, did you, now you weren't too far from Broadkill Beach. Did you get to vacation at all from the farm at the beach?
I remember on some hot summer days,
Okay.
my father would say, "Let's go to the beach and have supper or dinner, whatever you want to call it." We'd take hot dogs, marshmallows,
Oh, sure.
and round up some wood that was on the farm. Pick up some wood and a little oil to start the fire, and we'd go in swimming.
Yeah.
And eat these hot dogs and marshmallows and ever so often, not too often. And on a Sunday evening was a trip to Rehoboth Beach.
Oh, gosh.
We'd all dress in our finest that we could find. And when you got there, there was no people from out of town. It was all local people. And sitting back on the boardwalk with the straw hats and the
Oh, sure.
white duck pants and whatever.
Did they still have a bandstand in Rehoboth then, or?
I don't recall a bandstand.
Okay. But people walked the boardwalk?
Oh,
Was that?
Well, the children did.
Okay.
The parents would generally sit
Oh, okay.
and talk.
All right.
You see a neighbor or somebody you don't see too often, and they would talk.
Oh, okay. How do you, or are you able to keep in touch with some of the former students that were friends of yours in school? Are they still around, or?
Well, when I graduated, we had 26 students that graduated, 16 girls, 10 boys. And now we have 3 boys and 1 girl still living.
Living, all right.
And we did have class reunions. We had quite a few class reunions, maybe 5, 10, 20, 25, something like that.
Right, uh-huh.
But that about ended it, and now all we have, well, 3 of us are still in the Milton area.
Oh, that was my next question was,
And the 4th one is a boy that lives in near Columbus, Ohio.
oh, okay. Talk a little bit about how the weather, because the Delaware weather, it can be very different. It can be very dry or it can be very wet. And I think there were some weather events that impacted Milton during the years.
Well, I don't remember too much about the growing seasons, but I do remember the winters, which was terrifically cold.
Oh, okay.
And the mill ponds, like the one here in town and the Waples Mill Pond, would freeze over, and it would last a month or 2 months, and we could all, somebody would build a fire,
Yep.
and we'd all go out there and skate, and
All right.
that was really nice.
Oh, good. What about sledding? Were you able to,
Well,
were there
yes,
hills?
there was sledding here. Of course, Milton is one of the towns in Delaware that has hills.
Right, that's right.
And they would close off the mill hill there. That's what I call the mill hill.
And what would that be today?
That's where Goshen Church starts.
Yes, okay.
And there was a mill at the bottom of the hill.
Right.
And we'd slid down the hill and, of course, walk back up. And
Do it all over again.
and one thing I remember about the mill, corn was grown, there was no corn shelled in the field at that time. It was all picked by the ear.
Yes.
And if you had corn to sell, you'd bring it into the Diamond State roller mills, and they would buy the corn, and they would shell it and blow these cobs out there, the corn cobs out in a pile
Okay.
near the creek.
All right.
And that's what a lot of the town people would, see as Depression times in the 30s.
All right.
And that's what they would burn as fuel.
Oh,
They'd go pick these corn. They made
the
nice
cobs?
heat.
Oh, all right.
Maybe they didn't last too long, but they
Right.
would make nice heat.
Almost the equivalent of the Europeans using peat, only this was corn cobs.
You see, the Depression started in 29 or something like that.
Yes, that's right.
And it really lasted through World War II.
Sure.
And people had all they could do to really survive.
But the farmers probably did fairly well. Yeah.
I never knew times were bad. I had
Right.
plenty to eat.
That's right.
And clothes, I remember we'd go barefooted in the summertime, but that didn't work out too well for me because I'd have too many problems stepping on nails. And
Oh,
whatever.
gosh. Now, speaking of that, who was the doctor in town then?
There was a Dr. Hopkins in town.
Oh, all right.
And a Dr. Douglas.
Dr. Hopkins, I think, lived in the big house on Federal Street, right?
Right.
Yep.
But I never attended. I didn't go see those doctors. We always went to see the Beebes
Oh.
in Lewis.
Oh.
Richard Beebe was our doctor.
Oh, okay. And why do you think that was? Just you knew them better? Or?
I don't really know the answer to that question.
Okay. Friends of your mom and dad's, maybe.
I guess that's probably the main
right.
reason.
Maybe related at some point too.
Well, my grandmother at that time lived in Lewis on Vickers Avenue, just across from Beebe Hospital.
Oh, okay.
Beebe Hospital has now consumed Vickers Avenue,
All right. Yeah.
and I think her house would be sitting probably in the waiting room there in Beebe Hospital.
Oh, okay. What are some of the traditions you remember for special holidays, like Christmas, for instance, or Easter?
Well, there was never, the early part of the Depression, there was not much to go around.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Mother and Father left on Christmas Eve night to go do some shopping and bought a few things. And we always had plates on the dining room table. They'd put nuts, oranges, candy in these plates. We always had that.
Yes.
But it got a little better as time went along, of course.
Do you remember your first bicycle?
Yes, I had a bicycle.
And were you allowed to ride into town on it, or?
Oh, no, I just
No,
ride it around home there.
around the farm?
Yeah.
Do you remember much about the hurricane in '62 and the flooding in town?
Yes, I remember that. My son graduated in 1962,
Okay.
and they had the first Hanlopen Championship basketball team.
Oh, okay.
And
He must have gotten the basketball talent from you.
No, he didn't.
You know.
And anyway, that evening he had already finished his playing compete in it or something. So we went to see the opponents play in Greenwood.
Oh.
And coming home was the height of the storm, I guess. We got to Route 1, and they said, you can't turn and go down Route 1. I said, the water was across the dike, or the marsh down there.
Right.
I said, well, I live right up here. Well, you can go then.
Okay.
But before I got home, there was a tree across the road.
Oh, jeepers.
I had to stop and go up home and get the tractor and pull the tree out of the road.
Oh, gosh.
I think Janet was riding with me that night. I think she went green with her.
Oh.
And it was quite a storm.
Right. It took a long time for downtown to get back into the swing of things, too.
And there was also Hurricane Hazel back in 56, 55 or 56.
I remember that, too.
Tore down buildings, tore our chicken house down and that kind of thing.
How did the buildings at the farm survive?
That's what I'm saying. We lost the chicken house.
Oh, lost the chicken house in the 50s. Okay.
Maybe 2 chicken houses.
Do you remember much about elections or political happenings in town, local elections?
Well, my dad was always a strong Republican, and we voted here in town.
Mm-hmm. Where was town hall then?
They moved it around, I think.
Oh, okay.
And it was never too much prominent, I never thought.
Yeah.
But I do remember the school desegregation. That was the most liveliest thing that happened around Milton, far as that goes.
Tell me a little bit about that.
We had a school board chairman that was a strong segregationist, and he was not going to allow the black people to come to school. And it kind of tore the community up real badly, real bad. But he got it all around now. Everything's working out, I guess, but it would be expected.
Right. Did they have busing? You remember the busing part?
Well, we always had busing.
Oh, okay. All right.
No spatial busing, as you might think about busing from this district to the next.
Right. Okay. Okie doke. Because so many children lived rurally, they had to bus them into school.
And I live a half mile below the intersection of Route 16 and 1.
Right.
And the only way to get to the bus, it didn't come down from the house.
Oh, okay.
I had to get out to the 16 and 1 intersection.
Oh, my gosh.
By either walking or get a ride, somebody to take you.
Now, Route 1, was it just 2 lanes?
2 lanes, and it wasn't 1 at that time. It was Route 14.
Oh, okay. So that's why some of the routes now are all those teen numbers, the 16, 18, and 14. Oh, that's interesting.
Route 14 ran from the Maryland line outside of Harrington clear to Ocean City, best I remember.
Oh, okay. When you grew up and as an adult and got involved in some things in Milton, did you volunteer or did you have other outside activities or did the farm keep you very busy?
Well, I had practically all I could do. I increased the dairy farm. I was milking more cows, milking by machines, and even pipeline milking.
Okay.
And I didn't have much extra time to spare.
Okay.
But I became a director of Delaware Electric Cooperative.
Oh, all right. Okay.
In 1963.
Is that when the co-op started or had it been
No,
around?
it started in 36.
Oh, all right. Oh, my gosh. Okay.
And I was director there until I resigned in 2000.
Okay.
And I became the national director. That every state had a national director that met with every state that had cooperatives.
Okay.
And I was that from 25 years, I think, something like that. And we got to meet all over the U.S. It was very interesting.
If you wanted to tell us the most important thing that you remember about Milton, What would that be, do you think? Something about family or friends or activities?
I don't really know. I can't think of anything right offhand.
Okay. Your wife and was Betty,
Betty Stevenson,
and you have 3 children?
that's right. And she was a RN, and she worked as an RN for till the first child was born. And then after they all started at school, she went back as a school nurse.
Oh my gosh, okay.
She spent about 10 or 12 years in Ellendale, and then she left there and went to Rehoboth and finished her career down the Rehoboth school now as a nurse.
Okay. And grandchildren and great-grandchildren, how many do you have now?
I have 6 grandchildren. My son has 3. Of course, Janet was never married. And the youngest daughter has 3 girls. My son had 2 boys and a girl.
And any great-grandchildren?
And my son's oldest son has a boy and a girl. And his daughter has a boy and a girl. And the youngest son has 2 daughters.
Oh my gosh. So you've really divided it up, haven't you?
So my daughter, Sharon, has a daughter that was never married, the oldest one. And the second daughter has a son. And the youngest one has 2 daughters. So I have, and the second daughter of Sharon's married a man that had 2 children. So I have 2 stepchildren.
Oh,
2
step-grandchildren. So how many grandchildren in total?
That's 11.
11. Well, I think on that happy note, we will finish up today. And I want to thank you so much, Albert, for your time and all your wonderful stories.
Thank you. I did my best. I don't know how good I did.